afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to a new edition of Trap Chat Live. I am joined today by LaFanique Hamler, a tremendous soror of mine, all the way from Atlanta, GA. Yes, Wakanda is in the house. Uh, LaFanique is an executive compensation consultant who works with talent acquisition professionals and business leaders to recruit and retain top talent at global organizations. LaFanique, thank you so much for joining me today. We got a lot to get into, so I'm going to just give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the folks who may not know you, and then we're going to jump right in.
Yes, thank you for that introduction. So, as Kirsten said, in my role, I take market data, verified market data from company submitted surveys, as well as consider what executive candidates' compensation details are. And I use that and create an analysis to kind of make a compelling offer to essentially buy out executives from their current company. My specialty is executive compensation, but I do have some background on broad-based compensation for non-executives. And typically, what people may or may not know, when you think HR, sometimes you think talent acquisition, you think escalations and complaints, or when people say I'm calling HR, but they don't really think about compensation. And compensation is actually, it typically sits as a sub-function within HR. In one of my previous companies, there were actually two HR groups where you had general HR and then you had a group called HR Total Rewards. And so at the time, I didn't really know what that was. But what I learned about that leader, I loved about that he did HR Total Rewards, and he really wanted us to collaborate cross-functionally with other groups that were considered a function of total rewards.
I love that. So yeah, I spend a lot of time getting guidance and assistance from our compensation department, because I do work with some what I will say are complex or non-straightforward job offers, and I am not a tax expert. I am not an immigration expert. I am not a total rewards expert. So I am very happy to partner with the amazing folks who work in your field, because you guys make us better. And I've seen some great things come out. So you talked about total rewards, and I'm not sure that everyone really understands what that is. Can you explain to us what the difference is between total rewards and then what other folks would categorize as compensation?
Sure thing. So total rewards is literally every single tool available to an employer that can be used to attract, motivate, or retain their employees. Structurally, it contains 5 elements. It's compensation. It includes benefits, work-life balance, performance recognition, and any development and career opportunities. And so what we typically think when you're getting a job offer, you think compensation, which is your base pay or your base salary. It may include a bonus, and it might even include equity depending on your field. I know some tech companies, they do offer equity lower in the organization, or for executives of regular corporate employees, like once you get into that executive space, you might get stock. Those benefits might be your health and medical plans, disability, retirement, and other coverage. That's typically unchangeable. So that's nothing you can really change. That's just what the company offers. But then when you get into work life, you have your time off, workplace flexibility. What's the community like? If it is a place, like if you think about a Nike has a big headquarter with all of these different things. That's when you think about community type of things. I don't work at Nike, by the way. And then when you think health and wellness, what types of programs do they have that promote your wellness, financial wellness? What type of programs do they have? Some companies, they have student loan forgiveness. Some companies, they
Mm.
offer loans. They use their big name to be able to get you a loan at a rate that can't be beat or that you can't find on your own in the market. And then even dependent care. And then when you think about performance recognition, that doesn't, that it's kind of tied to your compensation, but you want to think about how do you recognize us? Like, how do you recognize employees? Like, what does that process look like? Is this an annual review? When do you get promotions? When do you think of that? And then when you think about development and career opportunities, like, is this role, what does this roadmap look like? Has that not been defined? Or how easy is it to move within the company?
Mm.
Can you give me some examples? And so that's kind of what total rewards is.
I like that, and I like that we call it total. Like, it's
Right.
the whole thing, because I do think that folks are still like laser focused only. And again, salary is, while it's one of the five components, while compensation is one of the five components, a lot of times, and it is probably the most important one to most people. A lot of times we get there, and then we don't think about all the other factors that come into play
Yeah,
when we're talking about our our entire total reward for working at a
exactly.
company. So
Exactly. And that's happened to me before where
yeah.
on paper, in a where I was considering an offer for myself, on paper, it's like, oh, this role is $10,000 more than what I'm making in salary, which will
Oh,
drive up my a bonus target or something.
yeah.
And then I said, oh, this is amazing. But then I start going through the benefit booklet, and I'm like, oh, my medical premium is $150 more per paycheck than what I'm at now, which is like what? It's almost $4,000 more per year. And then,
Wow.
oh, my current company, they contribute to my HSA. This company doesn't. It's relying on mine only. So that means I have to double up. So at the end of the day, what looked like a $10,000 increase was really maybe only like a $2,000 increase, because
Yikes.
the what I liked about my old company, and when it came to total rewards, we did these total reward statements. And so it said,
Mm.
you make X amount base pay. I'm going to use $75,000. You make 75,000. You get $10,000 in bonus. This is how much we are paying for benefits you might not pay for.
Okay.
So in reality, you say you make 75, but really we're paying $100,000 a year for you.
I love that. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate you including things like work life balance. That's a big deal right now,
Yeah.
especially as many of us are still aware of the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic.
Mhm.
We are in a phase where things are realigning, um,
Exactly.
and we just have to be more empathetic with what
Compassionate.
compassionate, and we have to give each other. Everyone has to give more, extend more grace to each other and to themselves. That's one of the things I think some of us, especially in HR, are a little bit harder on ourselves when it comes to a lot of these things. You know, we take things personally. I think
Exactly.
folks like to pretend that you can fully separate yourself from your job, and I just can't. Like
Exactly.
it's like, oh, you're not this. No, no, I am that too. I am totally a recruiter, and I care about what I do. And
Mhm.
if I do, when I do my job the best, like that is a reward in and of itself. How I'm helping
Right.
people. So George Davis says you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right, so we're not going to beat around the bush. I definitely didn't want to give this person a platform in terms of bashing them or dragging this conversation out any longer, but it is relevant. For those of you who don't know, something happened on like a Friday evening or over the weekend, and then Saturday, it kind of blew up. A lot of folks were talking about salary negotiations and blaming some things on a recruiter who said that, in a nutshell, they had someone who they only wanted $85,000 and the job paid 130,000, was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
130,000, and they only offered them the $85,000, and they were like, and then came with this remark like, I didn't have the bandwidth to tell them to or show them how to negotiate. They should have, but advocate for yourself was basically
Right.
the messaging, and I took that personally because I'm a recruiter and it is 100% our job to guide. It is 100% our job to give people information and to be
Mhm.
transparent, especially as it
Exactly.
relates to their pay. And
Exactly.
it's one thing to recognize your influence as a recruiter. You
Mhm.
have that. You are influential, and when you realize that, I think some people get a little power trippy and they're like, yeah, like I run this. But you also have to think about the responsibility that comes with that influence and the
Exactly.
impact that you're going to have, because your impact is not only on that person, it is
Yeah.
on other recruiters, it is on the organization.
Yeah.
You're affecting how this person is going to relate to the org. You're affecting other team members. You're affecting, if you're going to have to fill this job again because someone
Mhm.
in a week or 2 weeks or in a month or 2 months, because someone said, you know what, they pay XYZ for this job, pay me XYZ for this job. And, you're making almost $50,000 less than me.
Right.
So, what are some ways that you have been success or you've seen success in, really partnering with and working with recruiters? And before we went live, you made a statement and I wrote it down, and I didn't take offense to it because it's true. It might not be it might be the exception, but we know how the world is, and sometimes the exceptions become the rules.
Right.
So you said recruiters aren't honest.
Mhm.
So, and that is true sometimes.
Yeah.
So can you just explain like some ways that for recruiters and even for job seekers who are a little reluctant to or a little skeptical about what recruiters are doing out here, like what is really going on behind the scenes when it comes to putting together your compensation package?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I don't want to just bully, especially not during Black History Month. I'm not going to bully a Black woman, but I
Correct.
will say it's so much to unpack here. And just from a professional and internal perspective, knowing compensation, that's a huge pay equity concern waiting to
Yes.
happen. And typically, if an auditor finds that discrepancy, it has to be an explanation, whether it's location, the experience difference, or past year's performance. And this is a new candidate, so there is no prior year performance, but
Mm-hmm.
she asked for it is not sufficient. And
Correct.
so now when we're thinking externally, like from a candidate perspective, it's not really a lesson to teach. It's as a as a as a person who is seeking a job, they're trusting you, and they
Yes.
don't. And one of the things is, because pay has been so taboo of a topic, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say anything bad. And so, just as putting myself in that candidate's shoes, you don't want to scare them away. And likely, if she's asking for 85, she doesn't make that much now. And so she doesn't make that much now, but
Mm-hmm.
she's clearly qualified for that role you were offering her, which doesn't mean that just because she doesn't make that at the old company, that could mean that she was being underpaid at the old company. But that's not
Correct.
business. That's what our business is, getting her paid clearly in this company. And so when externally working with recruiters, like, recruiters have to be as clear as possible. I know some people say don't publish our range or anything, but still saying that. But what goes behind it, like internally, I'm gonna ask for, like, what are they asking for, or what are they saying they currently make? And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not gonna say that's BS to that person if I feel like, whatever the case may be. And then I'm also gonna look at what the market is saying. And so I believe that woman, that talent acquisition lady, she said she posted Glassdoor, and you can't always trust Glassdoor. It's not reliable. But
Right.
the data that I use, that's company submitted surveys, and so, but I obviously can't share that with a run of the mill person. And so I'm partnering with this person. And in every experience I've had with a talent acquisition professional internally, they're always going to be like, I don't think that's enough. Like they'll work with me. And so like,
Yeah.
even when I draw something back, they're like, I don't know if that's good enough to buy them from their current company.
Ooh.
But that's essentially what you're doing. You're buying employees, and right now it is crazy out there when it comes to job movement. They've coined the phrase the Great Resignation. They've done all of these things, and so it's like we're on the market. You're shopping for employees literally, and you
Yes.
have to come with the big dollars. And so to even see someone intentionally paying below a budget is just crazy. But yeah, so it's I hope I answered the question. Internally,
No,
it's
absolutely.
we're partnering one with one another, and then I didn't want to jump too far ahead on like how to leverage that when you're partnering externally as a candidate with a recruiter.
Yes, let's get into it. How do you leverage that as externally as a candidate, as a job seeker, as someone who's about to, been be made an offer? How do you leverage what you know with what you've been told and try to figure out what the best way to ask for the money that you deserve for a particular job? What's the best way to do that?
Definitely. Like I said, Glassdoor isn't fully reliable, but it can sometimes ballpark you.
Okay.
And so what I often do, like in my own, if I don't know and I'm not using my current company's resources to find out or whatever the case may be, I might look at a Glassdoor. I might Google the position, and then I'll kind of average it, and I'll aim high with what I want, because I know at the end of the day you're gonna fall short. And if they're at the compensation discussion portion, that means that you're likely a good candidate. And so when you're getting to that point, that's where you kind of aim high. But the things that you need to be asking about is this bonus eligible? That's some roles are bonus eligible. Like when I first started working, I didn't even know how bonuses worked. I didn't, when I first started, I didn't even know that bonuses were a common thing. Like I didn't know. And
Okay.
so now is this bonus eligible? And I've had roles where I've been bonus eligible and I'm looking for a new role, and they're like, no, this isn't bonus eligible. And so now you need to go up on what you're asking for in base pay, because you're like, well, I'm losing out on a bonus now. So I need to I got to be made whole. And that's essentially what my job is. I'm trying to make sure that everyone is made whole in what they're doing. And so from a candidate perspective, you ask if it's bonus eligible.
Okay.
Next, if you are, if it is involving equity, if you know typically, but ask if it is equity eligible in the same rate that you'll ask for bonus eligibility.
Okay.
Next, ask if it's like about time off.
Mm.
And so like ask about that. One of the things that was really important to me, I got married last year, is like when I start thinking about family planning, I've seen offers personally come to me where it seems like it's good on paper, and then I get to that PTO section,
Okay.
and it's like, oh, you get 6 weeks maternity leave, and it's like, oh no, that's not going to work for me.
Right.
And so you can even ask, is that flexible? And they may say no, but I mean, the worst thing that can happen is they'll tell you no, and at least you knew, rather than to say that. And then the last thing I would say to ask is ask about those perks. Perks, if it is everyone's moving to workplace flexibility, and so with that knowledge, if you're looking for a remote role and you've historically worked in an office setting, one of the things you can say, and again, the worst thing they can say is no, is I've historically worked in a corporate office, and this will be my first remote role. I don't have an office set up. Is that something that your company offers, or would you be willing to consider a one-time cash payment to help me get my office set up? Because you think about it, you'll have to buy a monitor if they don't provide it. You'll have to buy a computer. You need a good desk because you're going to be sitting down forever. Or you need a good chair, something that's really not going to do bad on you. So think about those things. Think about literally what makes sense to you. Some jobs may require you to travel. So ask about car stipend. Like, does this have a company car?
Mm,
It's so much more. Ask about mobile phone. Like, do you guys have an
yes.
allowance? So there's so much more than compensation, which obviously, yes, we want that base pay to be where it needs to be. But when you look at it from a total rewards perspective, it's so much more, and it's almost guaranteed that if you view things through a total rewards lens, you will know for the most part that you have gotten a good offer and that you will likely be happy at that role, because you can get all of the money in the world, and I've learned that from experience. If you don't like everything about that culture, about them not investing into their employees,
Mm-hmm.
about all of this, it doesn't matter.
No, thank you for saying that. And I want to go back and highlight what you said about working remotely. I have been fortunate, if if that's even the right adjective to use, but I've been working remotely for almost 6 years
Mhm.
exclusively now, and there are things that I have because I do run a business as well. There is an office set up that I have. There are things that I make allowances for, things that I did not have to do when I worked in an office. And I think that people get excited about the idea of remote work because they think about the flexibility. They think about, oh,
Mhm.
like I don't have to sit in traffic.
Right.
I don't have to deal with, the annoying coworker who comes by every 5 minutes to check and see what I'm doing, whatever the case may be. Like you think about those things, but you don't think about things like as simple as even me, someone who has worked from home or excuse me, worked remotely, because everyone doesn't that's remote is not working from their home, but
Right.
working remotely outside of, a building that is owned by your company or leased by your company. There are things I didn't think about because I have to keep separate, my consulting job and my business. So
Mhm.
like I'm a note taker and I love notebooks and pens and pencils and I do phone screens sometimes five, six, seven, eight, nine, 100 a day. And I'm taking notes and I'm running out of notebooks and I'm just
Mhm.
gonna keep buying them. So I asked the question, can I get some notebooks for y'all stuff to keep it separate from mine? And honestly, no one knew how to get that for me. But again, this is something that I didn't talk about. And with everyone being remote, and even if I could go to an office, which I can, and go into the
Mhm.
supply closet, it's not there. Like
Right.
they haven't put any supplies in the closet for 2 years.
Right.
But so yeah, I do want people to think about that. There are advantages to working remotely, but there also are, like LaFanique just mentioned, there are things that you need to think about, and there are questions that you can ask about your when you're negotiating your
Mhm.
offer. Because I don't even want to say when you're negotiating your salary, because just like she said, it's a total reward. It's
Mhm.
everything that goes into what your work life is going to be like there, including your pay, including how you feel about the job. And some companies I've seen, I hope they don't wait until it's, thank your employees day
Right.
or administrative assistant day or whatever they're calling that day now, or they don't wait until, your bonus time to say
Mhm.
thank you, in some type of tangible way.
Right.
you know One thing I loved about the pandemic, even I just said that out loud. One thing that I appreciated that companies did, how's that? That's
Mhm.
better.
That's better.
During the pandemic is sending welcome boxes to people.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like I love watching those unboxings. I'm like, what y'all get? I'm
Right.
like, that is nice. They got that on Amazon. That is so nice. Get
I love it.
that's exciting, and we used to get those things at orientation, like, oh,
Exactly.
here's a cup, here's a pencil. But no, I'm seeing folks getting good things. Again, everybody does not have the resources readily available
Mhm.
um, to pay the extra pay for extra bandwidth in terms
Exactly.
of your internet access, or to even, buy just there's other things that come into it. Again,
Right.
supplies. You're running up your electricity, your heat, your air conditioning, all of that stuff all day
Exactly.
long. And again, you got to think about those things. And again, there's reimbursement too. So that's always a tricky thing. Um, is that companies say we offer XYZ, especially when it comes to tuition. We
Hmm.
offer $5,000 tuition assistance,
Right.
or but it's really a reimbursement. Um,
Right.
so you got to spend that money first, and then go through and jump through a bunch of hoops to get that money. So, what are some things that folks can look out for that are not going to cost them more upfront than the value of what they're getting? Like the example you gave with your health insurance being $150 more a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, no, and I thought about this too. My first time I ever switched a job, um, I didn't even think about it, but this was for that company that looked at total rewards and they value total rewards.
Okay.
And I didn't even think about it because I already knew I was taking a pay increase. But they said, our for if it's your first year working here, you get I think they said 2 weeks PTO. And they said, but because you have 3 years work experience, we're going to just credit that to you. And now you get 3.5 weeks PTO. And so basically they didn't have to do that because
No, they
it was
didn't.
technically how long have you been at that company? But and they never even asked me what was I getting because either way I was getting more than what I was getting, but because they valued employees and because they looked at it that way, like this is an entry level job technically, but she's not entry level. She's been working 3 years. We're going to give her that.
I love
And
it.
and so ask that. Like if you see in the booklet a tier and okay, technically it's my first year here, but technically I've been working 10 years, ask because at the end of the day, again, they can say no. And in the same token, tell them everything you get at your current company that you
Okay.
love. And
All
so
right.
and so when you think about base salary, tell them your earnings expectation, but then also say, I also get an X% bonus,
Mm-hmm.
or this is how much I'm expecting. And then even if a lot of companies' bonus pays out the first quarter of the year. So if it's like this weird gap in time where it's like you're supposed to be getting a bonus at your current employer, but you're trying to move and you might leave that, tell them, be like, I'm walking away from X amount of money.
Yes.
I'm walking away from that. That's where that word buying someone comes from. Like
Buy
you
out. We
buy
we're not
them
gonna we're not gonna say we're gonna buy people black. And I got on my
out. Right,
Black History Month
exactly. Oh yeah,
sweatshirt.
true. Not on Black History Month. You're
Yeah,
right.
no.
Right. A
Buying
buyout.
out someone's bonus.
Buy
Yeah,
out someone's bonus.
correct.
And so when you think about that, tell them that. Say, I get this. I am leaving this on the table. My company.
Mm,
One of the questions I asked recently in my job search is, what resources are available to help me accomplish my job? And the reason I used that specific language was that at my prior job, I had access to a lot of memberships, be it SHRM, be it PHR, be it World at Work for compensation.
mm-hmm.
They paid for all of those memberships. And so I kind of asked what resources are available to help me in my development and all of that. And if they don't mention it, then you say, well, I currently get a membership for World at Work. Is that something that, like, how do we go about doing that? Is that something that you all can help continue? And just all of that, like conferences that you go to every year and not on your dime, and you don't know if that new company is going to pay for that. It's so important to just lay everything out that you see valuable that your company provides. And
Mm.
even though it's not compensation in your eyes, the company is paying for you.
My goodness, you had so many jewels in here that I couldn't even get them all down, but I did just write down the last one. Lay everything out that you deem valuable.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's going to wrap this up nicely with a bow. When you're out here in these streets negotiating your offer, your total rewards at your next employer or your next prospective employer. So we're at the 2:30 mark, with the 30-minute mark, but I do want to have a little bit of time to let people get to know you a little bit better. So you live out in Atlanta area,
Mhm.
and like I said, you are a member of the best sorority on the planet.
Right.
Um, so when it comes to, you're ready to get excited about the day, what's your go-to song?
Oh goodness. I am a huge Beyonce fan. And I
Okay.
will say that my favorite, like my mantra song for her, for me, is 6 inch. And so it's like
Ooh.
6 inch heels. She walks in the club like nobody's business. And so
Okay.
basically it just talks about really her work ethic. In my mind, that's what I think she's talking about. But I obviously put myself in those shoes, and it talks about how hard she works. She grinds from Monday to Friday, works from Friday to Sunday, and so
Okay.
that's what I do. That's
All
my
right.
every morning I listen to it.
I think I was hoping for. I was trying to lead you into a Southern playalistic type of vibe, but
I do. My brother got me ATLiens on vinyl. I have a record
ooh,
player,
nice.
and so he did get me that on vinyl for
Okay.
Christmas.
All right, and then like I said, we both need to get back to work, so I ain't gonna ask you one more question.
Okay.
This might be a tough one because it is for me because it changes every time I ask myself the same question. Um, what is the best career advice you ever received that you did not take?
That I did not take. Ah, it's hard. I was good with the best career advice. I'm gonna give two, but I kind of took both of them. One of the
Later on or at the time?
later on,
Okay.
yeah, later on, and both of them was really about mindset. The first one,
Mhm.
a guy, he told me, he said, the truth is nobody really knows what they're doing, and this was coming from like a senior vice president. And he said the truth is nobody knows what they're doing, but you've got to kind of like stick to it, dig deeper, ask a lot of questions, and just throw things out until something sticks. And so initially what I was doing was I would try to like package something up and pretty and wrap it with a bow and give it to people, and
Mhm.
they're like, this is not what I had in mind. And so eventually it was like, okay, here, how do you think about this? Like just testing the water. So I like throw things a little bit at a time. Like, this isn't cute. This isn't the final product, but what do you think about that?
Okay.
And then the second thing, um, I was very new in my career. I wasn't married. I didn't have children. And a Black woman, she saw me crying at my desk one day, and she had already taken. She was a soror.
Right.
She pulled me into her office and she closed the door and she told me, she said, "You don't you have to work, but you don't have to work here."
Yes. I like that. You have to work,
And
but you don't have to work here. I
right,
love that.
and she told me, she said, and the piece that was important for me at that time was, she said, "You are your family. When you eat, your family is full." And so
Mm.
and so she said, and that was so important for me because she's like, you don't have a lot to stress about. You don't have to worry about how your kids are gonna eat or be fed for anything. And so and she circled back around. She said, "You gotta work, yes, but it ain't gotta be here."
I love
And so at the time that kind of really
Whew.
shifted my mindset. Which I didn't immediately just think that. I'm like, I don't want to lose my job. I don't wanna, like, I still thought that, but now I kind of think that, like, it move if it's not for you.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for leaving us on yet another high note. I appreciate you so very much for giving us this master class in total rewards and at the end, mindset. Like, I'm going to have to rewatch this. I hope everyone else will catch the replay. And for those who didn't get to see it live, can you tell folks how to reach you, how to connect with you? I
Absolutely.
have your LinkedIn scrolling at the bottom, but if there's another way.
Absolutely. Definitely. LinkedIn, Twitter, I think it's LaFanique _ Ashe, ASHAE.
Okay.
And that's really like a personal Twitter, but still I like to talk compensation when it comes through. But definitely LinkedIn for all things compensation, total rewards, and to get to know me better as a person, Twitter is fine as well.
All right. So let me put this up here really quickly. Did I do that right?
Absolutely.
All
Oh,
right.
wait, it's ASHAE.
Oh, oh man. All right, hold on. Sorry, guys. Oh, now I can't spell. ASHAE.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So go connect with, or excuse me, go follow her on LinkedIn. Go follow her on the Twitter. And we are going to continue this conversation outside of here for times to come. Please make sure that you tune in next week again for Trap Chat Live, and please share, please like, please comment on this broadcast, catch the replay, but definitely pay attention, get your notebook and your pencil or your pen ready, and go ahead and write down these gems. I'll be sharing them as well. Thank you once again, LaFanique, for being here with me, and thank everyone who tunes in. And we'll see you next Wednesday.
It
Bye
was such a
bye.
pleasure. Bye.